Greetings. Just taking a little sip of coffee as I start the show. It's just how I like to do it. I like to stay well lubricated with caffeinated beverages. Welcome to Black Bear News, where everything is connected, whether you like it or not, whether you agree or not. It's connected, damn it. Early chatters, what's going on? Early chatters are in, and they are chatting up a storm. I didn't really get a chance to see if there was an overarching theme to the chat. Caleb Rochester says, I love hatred. Does that count? I don't know. I don't know if that was in response to something. I'm not sure, but that's pretty funny. Had Vollmer says, can love be learned or taught? Oh, absolutely. Well, this is just me. I don't know what you think. My personal opinion is yes, love, compassion, empathy can all be learned and or strengthened. I think everyone goes through a phase when they're a child, right? It's child development. Most children go through a stage where they're very self-centered, self-important. It's almost like a narcissistic stage of development where it becomes all about me and my needs and what, I'm doing. And then as we get older, we learn to, open the umbrella of understanding and open our minds and our consciousnesses to what others are feeling. So, that's totally a developmental thing that anybody could develop at any time in their lives, right? We can find ourselves in a state of arrested development at any time in our lives. And we can also restart that development at any time that we want to. Raza Remen asks, can love be weaponized? That's an excellent question. Well, it's interesting because I think that, a lot of the left /progressive leaning type people are people that have an overabundance of compassion and empathy. Right? There are people that do have a higher plane of consciousness. That's so crazy. We were at 80 viewers and it got knocked down to 45 viewers in about 5 seconds. So YouTube is bullshitting because there's actually like 80 or 90 people watching right now. YouTube is a bunch of liars. Anyways, please remember to like the video and make sure you're still subscribed. The reason why YouTube can mess with my channel really hard is because I have such a small channel that they think that I'm inconsequential and nobody will pay attention to me if I'm complaining that they're messing with my channel. But I'm just going to complain right now. They're messing with my channel. We literally were at like 75 viewers or whatever, and it just jumped down to 45. Bullshit. I call bullshit. Anyways, back to what I was saying. So people on the left generally have more empathy, are more empathetic. People with higher, that's just what I've seen. My general observation is that people with more empathy, more compassion, with, a higher plane of consciousness generally tend to be people who are on the left or progressive or whatever you want to call it. I don't know what you want to call that. And if you have a higher level of empathy and compassion, then you are less likely to be engaged in things that are toxic or adversarial or violent or, anger, based in anger, right? Based in an anger response. You're generally going to be more of a person that's going to, hang back and not react, right? Reactionary is generally a term that's used for people on the right because they just react, Oh no, absolutely not. Fuck that. Right? So generally, people who are on a higher consciousness level don't react immediately. They're not reactionary people. So when you talk about love being weaponized, the term weapon connotes that you are taking some kind of violent action, or that you're, being adversarial or antagonistic, or that you're looking for a fight, or that you're willing to use a weapon or violence against somebody for the thing that you want. So love being weaponized, I don't know if love can be weaponized. I'm not really sure. I think love can be a tool. I think love can be utilized. I don't know if it can be weaponized, because I don't even know if people who are grounded in love would use something as a weapon, as in I'm trying to hurt you, right? People who are grounded in love use things in order to raise the consciousness of the people around them, and even of their adversaries. So anyways, Groot says, Kevin, this weather is heaven. Yes. Love the rhymes and alliterations, Groot. Yeah, the weather is absolutely amazing in Los Angeles today. It is a beautiful, lovely spring, warm spring day. And I'm enjoying it. Just saying what's up to everybody in the chat. Magical Thinking Barbie, what's up? Basil Peterson, what's up? James Osborne, news nowadays is a joke. It's all been weaponized to fit individual agendas, and it's so obvious. Thank you for having a non-biased approach. You're welcome. You are welcome. And that's absolutely true. News is weaponized. People's, whatever spectrum you're on, like a lot of the thought silos, a lot of the left or right narratives are all weaponized. To just say that side is bad and my side is good, and everything your side says is a lie and everything my side says is the truth. I'm Hillary supporter. If you guys ever get a chance, go look up Hillary supporter on Jimmy Dore's site. There's a guy that does voices on his show all the time, and he does this character. If you try to pop that bubble of their thought bubble or their narrative bubble, they get really angry. Oh my God. I really try and not get angry at people when I'm debating them on, Twitter or even in the comment section here. But goddamn, sometimes it's so hard. So in California, Gavin Newsom has, I guess, he's authorized giving money to people, illegal immigrants, or, illegal aliens, or whatever, people who are here who are undocumented. So a lot of people are pissed off about that, right? A lot of people on the right are pissed off about that. And there's a thing trending on Twitter called Recall Gavin Newsom. And, it's pretty ridiculous, because if you're a person that's like, people should starve just because they're not here legally, you're a pretty awful person if that's your viewpoint. Anyways, but then I was reading through the tweets that had the hashtag Recall Gavin Newsom, and this guy was like, all these Recall Gavin Newsom people are people from out of state and or Russian bots. And I was like, I immediately had to say something to him, because that was the stupidest shit I've ever read. Because They're out of state because, of course, everybody who lives in California is a liberal. Everybody here is a Democrat. And so, therefore, if you don't like Democrats, or if you have any kind of anti-liberal sentiment, you must be from out of state because, conservatives just don't live in California. If that's your viewpoint, you're an absolute dope, because there are actually a lot of conservative people in California. I'm not one of them. I'm just saying there's a lot of conservative people in California. There's a lot of Trump supporters in California. There's a lot of Trump supporters right here in Los Angeles. Okay, so if you think Los Angeles is just this, ocean of liberal, people, crunchy liberal vegans, no, not at all. There's a large contingent of conservative, right-wing, Trump-supporting people in Los Angeles. And newsflash, they're not all white. Newsflash, they are not all white. I know plenty of Latino Trump supporters, know a few black Trump supporters. So this idea that everybody fits in this bubble, your spectrum bubble that you want to put them all in, is fucking bullshit. People exist all across the spectrum so there's this huge spectrum of existence, and all kinds of people exist on all kinds of parts of the spectrum. And so summing everything up as, these liberal people, or these conservative people, or these white people over here, or these black people over here, all of it is bullshit. All of it is stupid. All of it is ignorance, stupidity and ignorance. I'm not even going to say low information, because if you don't, if you can't go out and look beyond your own information bubble, you're just an ignorant person. Get more information. Stop being stupid and get more information. No representation says I have no problem recalling Newsom. Well, love him or hate him, like him or not, he's got whatever. He's, some of his policies I can agree with, and some of his policies I think are absolute bullshit. Do I think he's in the pocket of corporations? Of course. Sure, yes, he is. Is he ultimately going to do the bidding of, the corporate powers that be? Of course. Yes, he is. But he is also, a liberal politician. And he's going to do things that are more, along the lines of what liberals would support. That's totally fine. I happen to be progressive or, left leaning. So I agree with the idea that, people should be taken care of, whether you're here illegally or not, whatever that means. So, to get back to my conversation with this guy, so he thinks that everybody in California is a liberal. And if you're, if that's the way you feel, you must be a Russian bot. You must not be an actual human being. The Russian bot thing is such a disgusting trope. It is such a disgusting smear on any kind of thought pattern or, any kind of viewpoint. It's absolutely abusive, again, and disgusting, because you're devaluing or invalidating people's feelings and saying, well, your feelings aren't real. You're controlled by another country or some evil entity or whatever. Which, again, is absolutely ignorant. So it's not low information. It's just fucking ignorant. Anyways, there's my little opening ramble and rant. Cindy Seeley, how you doing? Had Valmer, Donald McCarthy, Cornholio, Human, Caleb Rochester. Indeed, willful ignorance. That's that's the thing. A lot of people that are let off the hook with being low information are actually just willfully ignorant assholes. Or maybe they're not assholes. Maybe they're just willfully ignorant. Well, I just think I'm right. Well, I'm just right and you're wrong. And I'm not willing to open my mind to any other viewpoint. So willful ignorance, and, no excuse for that. No break for that. Very little compassion for that from me. Anyway, so my God, I saw this story last night, and I was like, what the heck is happening? So people, there's a lot of like confusion, finger pointing, name calling, all over social media and all over, mainstream media, that if you're questioning the idea that the coronavirus is just something that happened in nature, and it's just a fluke of nature, and oh my God, and we we should just be really scared of it and do everything that the powers that be tell us, and stay scared and stay inside your house, and everything that they're doing is the right thing or whatever, or Trump is bad but the Democrats are good, blah blah boob dib blah blah. Anyways, you're right. Slap happy. You're absolutely right. Look, so there's been a lot of questions about the source of the virus. And people are questioning it. People have all kinds of ideas about it. Some of them are a little bit weird. Some of them are way out there, and some of them have a little more validity. So there are people that really have questions about whether or not this is man-made, or whether this was a bioweapon, or whether this was released by a lab. I covered a story a couple weeks ago from Whitney Webb about the strangeness of bioweapons that was going on around the time of 9/11, going on in the Bush administration. That there was very sloppy handling of bioweapons and or viruses in, at Fort Detrick and other labs, etc. Both China and Iran have accused the U.S. of releasing this virus as a bioweapon. And you could say, well, that's just craziness. And why would they say? Of course they would say that because they're bad people and they're bad regimes and they're authoritarian and they're horrible people. Of course they would do that. Or you could say, I wonder if this has, both of these countries have some kind of confirmation, or they believe very strongly that this could be a bioweapon. So check this out. In the Washington Post. Now again, just because it's in the Washington Post doesn't necessarily mean that this is, super factual, or, the end all in factuality or absolute truth. But the fact that this is in the Washington Post is a bit of a mind blower. So I'm going to, so this Washington Post article was covered as well by Forbes. And I'm going to, let's see. I'm going to read a little through the Forbes article. I'm going to read a little through the Washington Post article. Hope you guys are seeing that. So originally the headline or the byline or whatever for this article said something like the Washington Post goes rogue, which was pretty wild. This is from 2 days ago. China lab in focus of coronavirus outbreak. For months, anyone who said the new SARS coronavirus might have come out of a virology research lab in Wuhan, China, was dismissed as a right-wing xenophobe. When Zero Hedge, a financial news website whose comment section certainly fits the right-wing stereotype. I'm just going to pause here. It's funny because if you blame China for the virus, you're a xenophobe. But if you blame anti-establishment sentiment on Twitter as the work of Russian bots, you're not a xenophobe. Just let that one sink in. When Zero Hedge, a financial news website whose comment section certainly fits the right-wing stereotype, first put out its own bombastic version of the bat-borne virus escaping a research lab, they were banned from Twitter. Zero Hedge was banned from Twitter because they put out an article about this virus escaping a research lab. Fox host Tucker Carlson started banging this drum last week, but on Tuesday, the narrative flipped. It's no longer a story shared by the Bears, and President Trump fans. Today, Josh Rogan, who is said to be as plugged into the State Department as any Washington Post columnist, was shown documents dating back to 2015 revealing how the U.S. government was worried about safety standards at that Wuhan lab. In fact, they were worried that one day one of these experiments, including the one on bat last week or a couple weeks ago, like, I don't know, whoops. In a best case scenario, Rogan's revealed and Iran have blamed the U.S. for this virus being a biological weapon, and now we're getting, at least an idea put out into the mainstream news that, oh wait, this might be something that was released by China. At the very least, for a government that likes to save face, the fact that the U.S. government helped build and fund the Wuhan virology lab in question should be enough for China to open that info vault to scientists at the World Health Organization. I don't think it's a conspiracy theory. I think it's a legitimate question that needs to be investigated and answered. Xiao Kang, a research scientist at the School of Information at the University of California at Berkeley, told Rogan, to understand entirely transparent, despite being heralded as such by some leaders. An example of that secrecy from Rogan. In January 2018, the U.S. Embassy in Beijing took the unusual step of repeatedly sending U.S. science diplomats to the Wuhan Institute of Virology, which had in 2015 become China's first laboratory to achieve the highest level of international bioresearch safety, known as BSL-4. WIV issued a news release in English about the last of these visits, which occurred on March 27, 2018. The U.S. delegation was led by Jameson Faus, the consul general in Wuhan, and Rick Schweitzer, the embassy's counselor of environment, science, technology, and health. Last week, WIV erased that statement from its website. Wow, though it remains archived on the internet. Wow. They erased it from the website. Worth noting, at least one young researcher from the lab, Huang Yanling, a graduate student rumored to be patient zero, was scrubbed from the lab's website. The first mysterious samples from infected individuals arrived at the Wuhan Institute of Virology on December 30th, 2019. According to the Scientific American magazine, Shi Zhengli, a renowned bat scientist in China, was told by the institute's director that the Wuhan Center for Disease Control and Prevention, modeled after our own CDC, had detected a novel coronavirus in 2 hospital patients. They were suffering from an odd pneumonia. They wanted her laboratory to investigate because the virus belonged to the same family of bat-borne viruses that cause SARS, a disease that, by comparison, only infected 8,100 people and killed just under 800 in an 8-month period in 2002-2003. I had never expected this kind of thing to happen in Wuhan, in central China, she was quoted as saying by Scientific American on March 11th. Her studies had shown that the southern subtropical areas of Guangdong, Guangxi, and Yunnan had the greatest risk of coronaviruses jumping to humans from animals, particularly bats, a known reservoir for many viruses. If bat coronaviruses were the culprit, she recalled to Scientific American, could they have come from our lab? All right. So I'm going to stop reading that, and I'm going to switch over to this Washington Post article. Here's a Washington Post article. State Department cables warned of safety issues at Wuhan lab studying bat coronaviruses. Does this sound familiar? Guys, this is also from April 14th. Out of the Washington Post. 2 years before the novel coronavirus pandemic upended the world, U.S. embassy officials visited a Chinese research facility in the city of Wuhan several times and sent 2 official warnings back to Washington about inadequate safety at the lab, which was conducting risky studies on coronaviruses from bats. The cables have fueled discussions inside the U.S. government about whether this or another Wuhan lab was the source of the virus, even though conclusive proof has yet to emerge. Okay, so they're being very careful in this article to not say that they know conclusively whether it is or is not. They're just saying, oh, it looks like there may be. In January 2018, the U.S. Embassy in Beijing took the unusual step of repeatedly sending U.S. science diplomats to the Wuhan Institute of Virology, which had in 2015 become China's first laboratory to achieve the highest level of international bioresearch safety. What the U.S. officials learned during their visits concerned them so much that they dispatched 2 diplomatic cables categorized as sensitive but unclassified back to Washington. The cables warned about safety and management weaknesses at the WIV lab and proposed more attention and help. The first cable, which I obtained, also warns that the lab's work on bat coronaviruses and their potential human transmission represented a risk of a new SARS-like pandemic. This is wild. Excuse me. During the interactions with scientists at the WIV laboratory, they noted the new lab has a serious shortage of appropriately trained technicians and investigators needed to safely operate this high containment laboratory. The Chinese researchers at WIV were receiving assistance from the Galveston National Laboratory at the University of Texas Medical Branch and other U.S. organizations, but the Chinese requested additional help. As the cable noted, the U.S. visitors met with Xi Zhengli, the head of the research project, who had been publishing studies related to bat coronaviruses for many years. Most importantly, the cable states the researchers also showed that various SARS-like coronaviruses can interact with the ACE2, the human receptor identified for SARS coronavirus. This finding strongly suggests that SARS-like coronaviruses, the U.S. government had imposed a moratorium on funding of any research that makes a virus more deadly or contagious, known as gain-of-function experiments. Even in 2015, other scientists questioned whether Xi's team was taking unnecessary risks. So they were doing research to prevent the next SARS-like pandemic by anticipating how it might emerge. As many have pointed out, there's no evidence that the virus now plaguing the world was engineered. Scientists largely agree it came from animals, but that is not the same as saying it didn't come from the lab, which spent years testing bat coronaviruses in animals, says Xiao Kang, a research scientist. I already read that in the other article. Excuse me. Chinese government still refuses to answer basic questions about the origin of the coronavirus while suppressing any attempts to examine whether either lab was involved. So there's something else down here very concerning. While the cable was a warning shot, they were begging people to pay attention to what was going on. Cables began to circulate again inside the administration over the past 2 months. One senior administration official told me that the cables provide one more piece of evidence to support the possibility that the pandemic is the result of a lab accident in Wuhan. So in January, they showed that the first known patient identified on December 1st they were identified on December 1st, had no connection to the market, the wet market, nor did more than one-third of the cases in the first large cluster. Also, the market didn't sell bats. I know that they've tried to say that this jumped from bats to pangolins and then to humans. Uh, so the origin story is not just about blame. It's crucial to understanding how the coronavirus pandemic started, because that informs how to prevent the next one. Oh, oh my. What does this all mean? And it also makes me wonder about the story I read last week about the fact that the intelligence community knew about all of this in November. They knew about this long ago. What does this all mean? Where did this begin? When did this begin? Who knew when this began, or who knew the actual origin of this? And, what the hell is really going on? Like, all the conflicting information about this actually leads me to believe that there's legitimate questions about whether this started in the wild, whether this was naturally occurring. So, it's a legitimate question. It's not engaging in conspiracy on any level to wonder whether, China released it or we released it or, somebody released it. Was it intentional? Was it unintentional? Was it an accident? Was this, some kind of gamesmanship? Was this some kind of, is this some kind of, war maneuver? Does anybody really know what the hell is actually going on? Kuro Hikes, thanks for the super chat. And they called us conspiracy theorists. Laugh my ass off. I'm laughing my ass off too. I'm actually also fucking confused as hell because this only adds to the questions for me. I've never been afraid to question the validity of the story of how this began, or question the real source of this pandemic. But this only raises more questions for me. So Kuro Hike says it was no accident. Keith Hayes says it is diversion, so Trump does not have to face the music. Legitimate question or not? Well, he may or may not face the music very soon. I don't know. I don't know how this is going to affect Trump or affect the November election. Nobody really has any idea how this is going to affect, because nobody, a month ago, nobody knew where we were going to be right now. And I don't think we're going to know where we're going to be in two or 3 months, let alone 6 months. Kuro Hikes, thanks again for another super chat. You can tell what the motivation was by examining the means of dealing with the problem. True. I don't know. I don't know what the motivation was, honestly. I'm not really sure myself. Do you mean the how China dealt with the problem, or how we're dealing with the problem? I mean, maybe, if we want to take it on face value for what we, all we know, China dealt with it very swiftly. And maybe they dealt with it more swiftly because they knew it was an accident, that it was a biological release. And they messed up and they were like, oh, we got to shut this down right away. Before this gets any crazier, but they didn't shut it off from the rest of the world, obviously. Keith Hayes says America is the most propagandized nation on the planet, and people don't even know it. You're right, Keith. We're incredibly propagandized, and we all walk around thinking we know what's going on because we watch the news, or that we're free. We have free information, a free flow of information because we're free. We're a democratic society. Blah blah blah. And people are really, honestly, just super confused without even knowing they're very confused. Um, um, Donald McCarthy, the history book is being burned, not written. Well, that's a good point too, because I think all of this, all of these, the stories that are starting to come kind of leak out. Now we have this kind of leaking out. Ooh, oh, wait, they were working on this in a lab, and there are questions about the safety of the facility, or how they were running it. The intelligence community says, oh, we knew about this a long time ago. Oh, whoops, wait, hold on. Pentagon says, no, we didn't. Uh, what is the purpose of this? What's the real purpose of this information that we're seeing now? Kuro Hikes, I think we are blaming the Chinese. Well, and then there's that, of course. Sure. Making the Chinese the culprits would go a long way toward, taking the heat off of how we're responding to it, and how bad the virus has been inflicting itself on the United States. But yeah, whether this was a release, by China or by the U.S., or it was intentional or unintentional or not a release at all, I don't, Kuro Hikes, COVID 1984, yeah. Probably the amount of misinformation getting thrown around right now is monumental. Osama number 5, looking forward to Earth Day. On the first Earth Day in 1970, I learned about Joni Mitchell. Indeed, on Earth Day 2020, I will receive another great gift of music and truth. Cicada on the day. So I'm going to just quickly talk about some extreme weather going on before I sign off, guys. So they're experiencing a serious heat wave in Mexico. And, well, as the planet, as a human experiment melts down under a pandemic, the Earth heats up. Heat wave sweeps across Mexico, putting essential workers at great risk. This is from yesterday. For the next few weeks, Mexico will be living under a heat wave, which would put at risk the health of essential workers who will have to go out amid the coronavirus pandemic. The National Meteorological Service of Conagua announced on Monday, according to a recent article. 22 states in the country will be affected, according to SMN, which is tasked to declare heat wave when in a region during 5 or more days the average maximum temperature of that period is exceeded. It leads to clear skies and therefore more hours of solar radiation. Mexico declares emergency due to severe drought. Just another byline there, or headline there, excuse me. SMN forecasts that 22 states will be recording temperatures above 95 Fahrenheit, 9 of which will have maximum temperature of 104. Colima, southwest of the state of Mexico, Guanajuato, Hidalgo, Nuevo León, southwest of Querétaro, San Luis Potosí, Sinaloa, and Tamaulipas. Maximum temperatures of 104. Meanwhile, 10 states will have maximum temperatures of 104 to 113. Youch, Chiapas, Guerrero, Jalisco, south of Morelos, Michoacan, Nayarit, Oaxaca, southwest of Pueblo, Quintana Roo, Veracruz, and finally 3 states will have temperatures above 113. God dang it, that's hot. Campeche, Tabasco, and Yucatan. On April 8th, a woman reportedly died from heat stroke while working on a ranch in community of Senor and Felipe Carrillo Puerto, according to a local media in Quintana Roo. SMN warned the public that if they do not hydrate regularly and fail to avoid exposure of direct sunlight, the high temperatures could be detrimental to their health. Serious heat wave going on. And emergency due to drought. Rising temperature is not only the only climate change related problem facing Mexico today. In a recent article by Latin Post, Mexico's National Water Commission published last week in the official journal of the Federation a general agreement declaring an emergency due to the occurrence of severe, extreme, or exceptional drought in basins by the year 2020. As Mexicans are forced to stay indoors, the demand for water consumption increases, but supplies run short due to extreme heat. This is the future of many other parts of the world in the next few months, for sure. Thanks for the super chat, Hero Hikes. Elysium is our future. Indeed. Jody Connolly says, I just want people to be tested. Fuck where or why it's here. Cindy Seeley, thank you. I'm looking forward to it too. I'm working furiously to finish it right now. I've got a scant few days to finish the work, but I am working hard. Poppy Davis says, cool, jet stream must be just below Texas. Yeah, the jet stream is waving very far south, and we had like super cold weather for a while. Now it's starting to warm up. Thank you, Poppy Davis. Well, yeah. Some days my accent is better than others. All right, Caleb, take it easy. I'm about to sign off myself, guys. I've reached the end of my time. Thank you so much for joining in the chat. I will be back with you tomorrow at the same time, the appointed hour of 11 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. Thank you for your eyes, your ears, and your conscience. And thank you always for your support. See y'all later. Until next time, peace.